Do you have certainty that all the highly enriched uranium was inside the Fordo Mountain, or some of it, because there were satellite photos that showed more than a dozen trucks there 2 days in advance? Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect, but Jennifer, you've been about the worst, the one who misrepresents the most intentionally. What the president says. I'm familiar.
Report about the ventilation shafts on Saturday night. And in fact, I was the first to describe the B-2 bombers, the refueling, the entire mission with great accuracy. So I take issue with that.
I appreciate you acknowledging that this was the first the most successful mission based on operational security that this department has done since you've been here, and I appreciate that. So we're looking at all aspects of intelligence and making sure we have a sense of what was where.
Man, more like the Secretary of Defensive. When Pete Hegseth is this touchy, even with reporters from one of the most right-wing networks in the world and his own former employer, do you think that might just mean he's not giving us the full story? The new issue on the right is that reporting from a leaked intelligence assessment suggests that the U.S. attack on Iran might not have, quote, obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities, as Donald Trump keeps insisting, but rather that they had plenty of advance notice of the attack and they were able to move their enriched uranium to a different location prior to the strike, meaning their nuclear ambitions were only set back a few months rather than years. And instead of being honest or even acknowledging the existence of that intel assessment, the White House is now engaging in a face-saving campaign, breathlessly insisting that they totally, definitely, bigly obliterated Iran's nuclear ambitions, and anybody who says otherwise is a traitor to this country who hates America, as was evidenced by Donald Trump's own response at the NATO summit yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've made clear your position on what impact the strikes had. I wanted to ask you what is next with Iran. For instance, is there any indication from U.S. intelligence that Iran was able to move any material, including
just uranium? The opposite. We think we hit them so hard and so fast they didn't get to move. And if you knew about that material, it's very hard and very dangerous to move. It's called, in many people, they call it dust, but it's very, very heavy. It's very, very hard to move. And they were way down. You know, they're 30 stories down. They're literally 30, 35 stories down underground.
I think you got it all.
Oh, yeah, we think we think it's covered with granite, concrete, and steel.
And if you're wondering why Donald Trump is so defensive, why he is so insistent on shoehorning this narrative into existence, it's because the whole reason that Iran knew to move their enriched to 60% uranium is because a certain American president, to put this diplomatically, did not know how to shut the fuck up about the impending strike. According to the New York Times, Mr. Trump seemed almost gleeful in telling reporters that he could make a decision 1 second before it's due because things change, especially with war. All the while, Mr. Trump was making blustery statements indicating he was about to take the country into the conflict. Everybody should evacuate Tehran, he wrote on Monday last week on Truth Social, the social media platform he owns. The following day, he posted that he had not left a meeting of the Group of Seven in Canada to broker a Middle East ceasefire, but for something, quote, much bigger. So, he told the world, stay tuned. These public pronouncements generated angst at the Pentagon and U.S. Central Command, where military planners began to worry that Mr. Trump was giving Iran too much warning about an impending strike. A small group of top military officials at the Pentagon and U.S. Central Command in Tampa had already begun refining attack plans at the Fordo facility and other Iranian nuclear sites that military planners had drawn up years ago. But even as the military planning was being conducted in secrecy, each of Mr. Trump's social media posts seemed to be telling the world what was coming. The president, said one military official, was the biggest threat to OPSEC, or operational security, that the planning faced. In other words, if there's one thing that actually ensured that this plan would not work, it was Donald Trump himself. He was the reason that the Iranians had plenty of time to prepare for the attack because he is incapable of knowing when or how to exercise a modicum of discretion and not make himself the center of attention. So now, given the fact that reporting suggests that Iran was able to avoid obliteration, for Trump, it's about saving face for himself and protecting his own reputation. He doesn't want to be blamed for the screw-up that he himself caused, so his sole goal right now is to offer up the talking point that Iran's facilities were 100% obliterated, and if you push back on that even a little bit, then not only are you a liar, but you hate our military. That's why he tweeted, "We just caught the failing New York Times, working with fake news CNN, cheating again. They tried to demean the great work our B-2 pilots did, and they were wrong in doing so. These reporters are just bad and sick people. You would think they would be proud of the great success we had, instead of trying to always make our our country look bad. Total obliteration. See? If you dare question the God King, then you're a traitor to this country. Instead, you have to toe the Trump line and just keep saying obliteration loudly because, as we all know, real victory comes from saying words strong and nothing else, a point that Pete Hegseth seemed to have taken to heart.
Hello, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah. There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots, these refuelers, these fighters, these air defenders, the skill and the courage it took to go into enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the American people and the world to take out a nuclear program is beyond what anyone in this audience can fathom. And then the instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce? And when they introduce that preliminary report that's deemed to be a low assessment, you know what a low assessment means? Low confidence in the data in that report. And why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence of what was just bombed by 12 30,000-pound bombs is buried under a mountain, devastated and obliterated. So if you want to make an assessment of what happened at Fordo, you better get a big shovel and go really deep because Iran's nuclear program is obliterated. And somebody somewhere is trying to leak something to say, oh, with low confidence, we think maybe it's moderate. Those that dropped the bombs precisely in the right place know exactly what happened when that exploded. And you know who else knows? Iran. That's why they came to the table right away, because their nuclear capabilities have been set back beyond what they thought were possible because of the courage of a commander-in-chief who led our troops, despite what the fake news wants to say.
So look, I want to make it clear, I'm not rooting against the military or the United States. I want us to succeed, and I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I also happen to think that this entire strike was illegal because it's Congress's power to declare war, not the president's, and that's important. And I also think that diplomacy would have gone further than a reckless strike that may very well drag us into yet another protracted war in the Middle East, one that is especially unpopular. But my objections aside, it happened, so I'd at least hope that I could trust what the government is telling us about what did happen, and yet those people seem more interested in holding a campaign rally and praising dear leader than being honest about what happened. And when even Fox News starts pushing back, it becomes clear that this administration might have just lost the plot. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.